Jon has tiny calves.
Yes.
They're tiny. They're like almost non-existent. It's the craziest thing. And he works out. Oh, just powerlifting, deadlifting, squats.
Yes.
Calves are still tiny. He's got like literally the perfect frame for fighting because he only has muscle where he needs it. It's like he's designed in a lab. Like if you wanted to design.
Well, Jon's fight IQ is insane.
Insane.
The guy developed a spinning back kick at 36. Didn't have a spinning back kick his whole career. And then all of a sudden knocks out Stipe with a spinning back kick for the heavyweight title. And did a lot of his career partying, which is even crazier. One of the things he said to Daniel Cormier, which is one of the coldest things anybody's ever said. He said, I beat you when I was on coke.
I beat you after a weekend of back-to-back weekends. Came one, your ass the next. It was great.
The showdown is officially set. Jon Jones has committed to facing Tom Aspinall. After returning from Thailand, Aspinall's dramatic physical transformation has caught major attention, even leaving Joe Rogan stunned.
Aspinall, I think they're trying to come to some sort of an agreement. The rumor is that he wants $30 million, and that the UFC's going to pay it.
The UFC's lead commentator couldn't hold back his admiration after witnessing the level of commitment the heavyweight champ is showing ahead of his clash with Tom Aspinall. Renowned for his elite talent and athletic ability, Jon Jones has been relentlessly focused on sculpting his body for the upcoming fight. Joe Rogan applauded Jones's intense discipline in both training and diet, noting the remarkable improvements in his physique.
Jon is what I would describe is there's human beings that have different temperament and different minds and different mentality and a ruthless competitive drive that's almost terrifying to the ordinary person. That's Jon Jones. Jon Jones is a bad guy who's trying to be a good guy. Right. But that guy.
Rogan remarked that Jon Jones's recent transformation reflects his relentless pursuit of peak performance ahead of the fight. Jones is an absolute phenomenon, Rogan said. He's got the talent, the strength, and the star power. He's the full package in the UFC. But what really sets him apart is his unmatched work ethic and focus. The upcoming clash with Tom Aspinall has stirred major excitement among fans and analysts alike, especially after months of anticipation.
Jon is what I would describe is there's human beings that have different temperament and different minds and different mentality and a ruthless competitive drive that's almost terrifying to the ordinary person. That's Jon Jones. Jon Jones is a bad guy who's trying to be a good guy. Right. But that guy, if
Tom Aspinall, recognized for his explosive style and impressive skill set, is expected to pose a serious challenge for Jon Jones. Still, Joe Rogan is confident that Jones's veteran experience and sheer physical dominance could give him the upper hand when they finally meet in the octagon.
Ain't at all. But Aspinall, like that he's something special. He really is something special. He's a very unusual example. Because he's a heavyweight, and he's a big guy, a really big guy, but he moves so fast.
Tom Aspinall is a gifted athlete, no doubt, Rogan commented. But this is going to be the toughest challenge he's ever faced. I'm really curious to see if he can handle someone like Jon Jones. Jones's training camp, meanwhile, has been nothing short of grueling, packed with relentless drills and focused preparation, as he sharpens both his techniques and game plan.
Who is the GOAT? I think if you look at Jon Jones's early career, right? Jon Jones wins the title in 2011, and from then on has fought more fights as championship fights than he has other fights. So he's the most accomplished for sure. Beats Mauricio Shogun Rua, who's a legend. And then the way he dominates all these other fighters, up until you get to Alexander Gustafsson, you could make the argument that he had a similar...
With the highly anticipated matchup just around the corner, fans are counting down the days to see Jon Jones return to the cage. Boasting a transformed physique and elite-level skill, Jones appears ready to deliver a powerful performance against Aspinall, one that could further cement his legacy as one of the all-time greats in UFC history. Joe Rogan has also emphasized Jones's intense training regimen, calling it a key factor in what makes him one of the most intelligent and strategic fighters in the sport.
You could make the argument, like if you look at what he did, Jon didn't lose any rounds. Jon was smashing people. You look what he did to Rashad Evans. You look what he did to Rampage Jackson. You look what he did to Lyoto Machida. Look what he did to everybody. You look at the way he beat Daniel Cormier in the first fight. Took him down. Like, who the fuck takes Daniel Cormier down, right? And then you look at him in the second fight. Even though it was ruled a no contest, we know what the fuck happened. he head kicked him and stopped him. You know, it was spectacular.
Joe Rogan has often pointed out that Jon Jones's intelligence and decision-making have played a major role in his long-standing dominance. On his podcast, Rogan referenced UFC 151 as a prime example of Jones's strategic mindset. Back in September 2012, Jones was set to defend his light heavyweight belt against Dan Henderson. When Henderson pulled out due to injury, the UFC attempted to replace him with Chael Sonnen on just 8 days' notice. Jones declined the short-notice fight, leading to the unprecedented cancellation of the event, a move that, while controversial, showed Jones's calculated approach to his career.
Calling out Jon Jones.
Yeah.
Right? That's the boogeyman. Like, Jon Jones is the fucking boogeyman. When he fought Gustafson, he had almost no training camp. They said he barely showed up. I talked to Jackson about it, and Greg Jackson was he's like, he didn't even train for that fight. He pulled that fight off in the 4th and 5th rounds. That's when he really turned it up. So you're talking about a guy who hasn't even been training. And then you saw the real Jon Jones in the second fight. That's motivated Jon Jones.
Calling out Jon Jones? That's like trying to challenge the UFC's boogeyman. When he first faced Alexander Gustafsson, word was he went into the fight with almost no real training camp. Greg Jackson even mentioned that Jones barely prepared. Yet somehow he found another gear in the 4th and 5th rounds and managed to turn the tide. That version of Jones wasn't even fully ready. Then came the rematch, where we saw what a focused, motivated Jon Jones truly looks like. And that's a completely different beast.
Chael's like a little smaller, too. I mean, Jon's cutting to get to 205. Chael's fighting at 185. Like, sketchy. Jon is big, dude. He's big. Big and long and strong as fuck. That's too big. Remember when Jon and him fought? It was a maul.
I don't.
It was a horrific maul.
Even after more than a decade, some fans still question Jon Jones's controversial decision at UFC 151. But Joe Rogan sees it differently. He believes that Jones prioritizing his legacy over public approval or short-term money is exactly what sets him apart as the greatest of all time. Jon is one of the smartest fighters we've ever seen, Rogan said on his podcast. They switched opponents on him, and people were upset the fight didn't go through. But look what happened when he eventually faced Chael Sonnen. He dominated him in the first round. It wasn't even close. That kind of one-sided destruction would have happened any day of the year.
Yeah, Jon beat him up so bad that he broke his own toe pushing off the ground, smashing it.
Related the injury. Let's take a look at it. This is the broken foot. No! Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. If that doesn't make your feet curl...
As skilled as Chael Sonnen is, the size and talent gap was clear. Sonnen had competed at 185 pounds, while Jon Jones was a naturally larger and more dominant 205-pound fighter. Many consider Jones to be one of the most gifted athletes the sport has ever seen, someone who would come out on top in any matchup. But when the UFC tried to switch opponents last minute and slot Sonnen in, Jones declined. He had completed a full training camp and wasn't about to compromise his standards. Fans were frustrated, expecting him to just go along with it. But Jones stood his ground. To this day, many still call him the greatest of all time. Why? Because he stuck to his principles. You can't just call up Jon Jones 5 days before a fight and expect him to say yes. He knows his worth, and he does things on his own terms.
And his coach, Colin, I forget, it's from Cabon, this gym that he trains at in the UK, Colin Heron. He trained Darren Till. Colin, from the early days of the career, was like emphasizing his speed. And so his speed has always been like extraordinary compared to other heavyweights. Like, he just fucking moves in. It's all like fast, explosive movements. So he's got natural speed, but then he's also got a lot of training to execute quickly. So when he moves in, he closes the gap. You can see, like, fuck, he's fast.
If there's one person who firmly believes the Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall showdown is destined to happen, it's Joe Rogan. Even when Jones appeared to be sidestepping the fight, Rogan continued to speak confidently about a potential clash in the octagon. As both a longtime commentator and UFC insider, Rogan is convinced that Jones's champion mindset won't let him walk away or wait for an easier path. Jones reclaimed his throne in the heavyweight division when he submitted Cyril Gane in 2023, marking a triumphant return after a 3-year layoff due to injuries. He later defended his title against Stipe Miocic at UFC 309 in November, and is now reportedly in talks to face the UK's rising star, Tom Aspinall. Aspinall, who currently holds the interim heavyweight title, has made it clear that he only wants one opponent next, the reigning champion, Jon Jones.
Aspinall's a freak. Like, I've seen a lot of heavyweight, even Francis, who's like the greatest, scariest power striker I've ever seen in the heavyweight division. No one's scarier than Francis. Francis does not move like Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is significantly faster than every other heavyweight. That's a real problem. That's a real problem. But Jon has been used to fighting guys.
The potential matchup has sparked debate throughout the MMA world. Some believe Jon Jones has nothing left to prove, while others argue that, at 37, he needs to unify the heavyweight division to truly solidify his legacy. On a recent podcast episode with former UFC champion Ilia Topuria, Joe Rogan shared his thoughts on the matter. Jon Jones is undeniably one of the greatest fighters to ever step into the octagon, Rogan said while discussing his all-time favorites. When Topuria asked if he thought Jones would face Aspinall, Rogan replied confidently, "Yes, I think he'll take that fight. I believe he'll chase one last moment of glory before stepping away from the sport."
Like Alexander Gustafsson, guys who are really fast at light heavyweight. So the speed is not going to be as much of an adjustment. Like, Jon's used to really fast people. He fought Lyoto Machida when Machida was in his prime. Machida was a lightning bolt, man. And he caught Jon a bunch of times. But then there's the thing of getting caught by Lyoto Machida is not like getting caught by 255-pound Tom Aspinall.
Jon Jones is a born conqueror, Rogan said. He's not the type to just sit back. The man learned to throw a spinning back kick at age 36, something he never used throughout his career. Then suddenly used it to knock out Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title. That's unreal at his age. Rogan praised Jones's fight IQ, calling it off the charts, and noted how remarkable it is considering Jones spent a large portion of his early career living recklessly outside the cage. He didn't always treat his body right, Rogan explained. He was so naturally gifted that he dominated without putting in maximum effort. But when he actually commits, he becomes downright scary. Rogan also recalled how, during Jones's first fight with Alexander Gustafsson in 2013, his coaches considered stopping the bout because Jones had come in underprepared and wasn't taking training seriously, yet still pulled through.
See, I think pound for pound, and we won't ever find out. I think Tom Aspinall is the best. I think Tom,
who knows?
I think Tom beats him.
Who knows if Jon beats him? Jon might beat him up.
Yeah, he could.
Jon might take him down and fucking ragdoll him on the ground, like, you know.
Jon easily could, because we don't know how good Jon is either.
And we also don't know what happens to Tom Aspinall in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds.
He's
we have zero
because no one's gotten there.
No one's even gotten close.
There's so many question marks. Like, we don't know how good Jon is.
Right.
UFC 165 saw Jon Jones narrowly edge out Alexander Gustafsson in a hard-fought unanimous decision, in what many still consider one of the most competitive bouts of his career. However, when the two met again 5 years later, the story was very different. After enduring a demanding training camp, Jones returned sharper and more prepared, finishing Gustafsson in the 3rd round. Now, as talk of a showdown with Tom Aspinall heats up, reports suggest Jones is planning a full 6-month training camp to prepare. And given Aspinall's explosive record, that's no surprise. The British interim champ has ended 8 of his 9 UFC wins in the very first round, with only one fight going beyond that point. A clear sign of how dangerous he is.
Tell me Jon's the best of all time, or he is the best GOAT, but you can't tell me he's the baddest heavyweight on the planet after being an older Stipe. That's not going to do it for me.
Right.
Aspinall looks fucking good, and he's in his prime.
Man, but Cyril Gane almost beat Francis. I know you can say the thing about the knee, and Jones just smoked him.
Went right through.
We also didn't know fucking Cyril Gane was a fucking 3-stripe white.
Tom Aspinall has been on a tear lately, earning Performance of the Night bonuses in each of his last 3 bouts. He stopped Marcin Tybura, knocked out Sergey Pavlovich to claim the interim heavyweight title, and finished Curtis Blades, all in the first round, and all in dominant fashion. Speaking to TalkSport last month, former UFC middleweight champion and British MMA icon Michael Bisping didn't mince words when asked about the delay in booking the Jones versus Aspinall fight. "If they don't announce it soon, people are going to start calling for him to be stripped," Bisping said. In any other sport, take boxing for example, if you don't face your mandatory challenger, they strip you. It's madness.
Well, I definitely believe the fight will happen this year. Seems like Jones is up for it. It seems like the UFC want it to happen. I mean, they said to Tom Aspinall, it's a done deal, it's going to happen. And it would just be such a shame if that fight didn't happen. I think it's going to happen International Fight Week, Las Vegas 2025. But what do I know? I'm not basing that on any inside information. Excuse me. I'm not basing that on any inside information. I know what you know. When Joe Rogan said apparently he wants 30 million, good for him. You know, I hope he gets...
Bisping made it clear that Jon Jones should be prioritizing the current interim champion, rather than chasing other potential opponents. It doesn't matter if Francis Ngannou is the PFL champion or was once the UFC champion. He's already been beaten by someone like Derek Lewis, Bisping pointed out. Right now, there's a legitimate interim champion in place. The former middleweight champ added that if Jones had no real intention of defending his title, he should have been up front with the UFC from the beginning, which could have prevented the creation of an interim title altogether.
Gets paid that money. You know, I hope he does, and I hope we get to see the fight. And if it isn't 30 million, maybe it's around that. Maybe it's 20 million, 25, maybe it's more, like you say. You know, I think the demand for this fight will be there. I think it's incredible that in this day and age, we're talking about these kind of fight purses being involved in mixed martial arts. I said this in my video. When I started MMA, I'm talking pre-UFC, when I first started like regional level MMA, everybody said, if you're getting into this sport for money, you're in the wrong sport. And I was like, holy cow.
If Jon never intended to face Aspinall, he should have been honest from the start, Bisping argued. He should have told Dana White and Hunter Campbell not to create an interim title because he wasn't going to unify it. That would have saved everyone the trouble. The ongoing UFC heavyweight saga continues to stir headlines, with Jon Jones now under fire for allegedly avoiding a showdown with interim title holder Tom Aspinall. Critics have called Jones's behavior uncharacteristically immature for a fighter of his legendary status. Despite Aspinall's consistent push for a unification bout, Jones has dismissed the idea, taking jabs at fans and the British contender while teasing possible retirement or less relevant fights. His recent challenge directed at former UFC champ Francis Ngannou, who's no longer even in the promotion, has only intensified speculation that Jones is dodging the one man many feel he should be fighting, Tom Aspinall.
This is the only reason why I'm getting involved in this sport. And of course, you know, I did pretty well. And now we're seeing people, obviously Conor McGregor's done fantastic. Lots of people in the UFC have become millionaires through the sport. And now we're seeing, you know, people like Jon Jones getting what was only regarded or what was only seen possible in like the high level superstar boxers, those kind of paydays. Now Jon Jones is getting that, and other people will be down the line as well. I think it's a great sign of the growth of the sport.
Jon Jones recently dismissed a fan-driven petition signed by over 200,000 people, calling for him to be stripped of his title, which has only added fuel to the fire. Critics argue that he's more concerned with protecting his pride than fulfilling the duties of a reigning champion. As frustration builds within the MMA world, many feel that Jones's refusal to engage, his online jabs, and his ongoing interest in facing Francis Ngannou, a fighter no longer with the UFC, suggest he's actively avoiding the real challenge. At 37, Jones seems more focused on buzz than legacy, a stance that threatens to tarnish an otherwise legendary career. And with fans still waiting for a unification bout with Tom Aspinall, it's unclear if they'll ever get the fight they truly want.
I feel like I've been very level-headed when it comes to Jon Jones and this whole situation, and not like taking the bait with the tweets and all that stuff. and like I said, I think we've been on top of the story from the beginning. And what did I say to all of you? What was it? 2 months ago now? 3 months ago? They got him the money. I'm not even going to call it fuck you money because as I've said from the beginning, he always deserved millions upon millions of dollars. It's not fuck you money. It's what he's owed. It's what he's worked to achieve.
MMA journalist Ariel Helwani recently echoed the mounting frustration among fans and fighters alike, accusing Jon Jones of holding up the UFC heavyweight division by dodging a unification clash with interim champ Tom Aspinall. Speaking on the Ariel Helwani show, he criticized Jones for putting self-interest ahead of the sport, pointing out that after demanding a substantial payday for the Aspinall bout, and reportedly getting it, Jones still backed out. He thinks he's on fire with all his tweets, Helwani remarked. But what he's really doing is burning his own legacy.
I feel like I've been very level-headed when it comes to Jon Jones and this whole situation. and not like taking the bait with the tweets and all that stuff. and like I said, I think we've been on top of the story from the beginning. And what did I say to all of you? What was it? 2 months ago now, 3 months ago? They got him the money. I'm not even going to call it fuck you money because as I've said from the beginning, he always deserved millions upon millions of dollars. It's not fuck you money. It's what he's owed. It's what he's worked to achieve.
Helwani didn't hold back, claiming Jon Jones is tarnishing his own legacy. Point to any all-time great, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Muhammad Ali, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux. None of them behaved this way in the twilight of their careers, he said. Rather than paving the way for the next generation, Jones has, instead, chosen to challenge Francis Ngannou, who's no longer even with the UFC, while ridiculing fans who supported the petition to strip his title. Helwani argues that this behavior is not only unbecoming of a champion, but is also stalling Tom Aspinall's career. He continues to urge the UFC to take decisive action, even suggesting that it may be time to relieve Jones of his title.
Is there anything that PFL or Francis could do to make that a realistic option for you guys, or are you fully focused on Aspinall?
Yeah, it's Aspinall's fight. I mean, we've been talking to this kid forever about it, and it's his fight. Listen, you can't make people fight. If Jon doesn't want to fight, you can't make him fight. We can try to make him fight. We can throw things at him that inspire him to want to fight, but we'll figure it out. I don't have...
Jon Jones's steep financial demands for a title unification bout were initially seen as a potential deal breaker. Yet, even after the UFC reportedly agreed to his high asking price, the highly anticipated showdown still hasn't materialized. Jones has continued to hint at retirement, adding more uncertainty to the situation. UFC President Dana White recently addressed the issue, making it clear that the next fight should be against Tom Aspinall. We've been discussing this with Aspinall for a long time. It's his fight, White said, dismissing speculation about a surprise matchup between Jones and former champion Francis Ngannou.
Ngannou on her contract, and Aspinall's the guy.
Right. If you were put in the position, would you maybe try to get Ngannou back under contract, or no?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Like, in your gut, do you think that fight will ultimately end up happening?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it since the beginning, and Jon Jones agreed to do the fight. So Jon Jones was offered the deal and accepted the deal. Jon agreed to fight Tom.
At the end of the day, you can't force someone to step into the octagon, Dana White commented when asked about Jon Jones's status. All we can do is motivate him, present opportunities, and see what clicks. According to White, Jones had previously agreed to postpone his retirement and accepted terms for a fight with British interim champ Tom Aspinall. Yes, Jon agreed to the fight. We offered him the deal and he accepted, White stated. You've heard me say this before. I still believe this fight will happen.
You said that before, like on the last answer, you said
Jon agreed to fight Tom, yes.
so but he hasn't signed a contract or anything.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
I mean, you guys have heard me for the last however long. I said, I guarantee you this fight's going to happen. This fight's going to happen. Fight's going to happen. You guys told me the crazy shit that was going on Instagram and all these other places. But yes, I've been saying Jon is going to fight Tom.
There are some rumors out there that you guys had offered him his fuck you money and he turned it down.
This fight is going to happen, Dana White reaffirmed, addressing the buzz circulating on social media. I know there's been a lot of noise online, but I've said it before. Jon will fight Tom. Despite growing public pressure, including a petition signed by over 200,000 fans demanding Jon Jones be stripped of his heavyweight title, the champ recently hinted he might step down voluntarily. I had conversations with the UFC a while back about my plans, Jones admitted. Honestly, I haven't trained seriously since my last appearance in New York.
Unless you hear it come from here, or we put out a press release, don't believe any of this bullshit. It's like the Turkey stuff, you know what I mean? And everybody's saying, I know Turkey said some stuff, but unless we come out and say something, it's all bullshit. I just don't get sucked into that stuff anymore. I don't even care. I don't even listen to it. And most of the time, the shit that I hear that happens, I hear from you guys when I come to things like this. Otherwise, I don't care and I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. But yes, Jon agreed to fight Tom. Fact.
Jones recently suggested that the UFC benefits from keeping him as the face of the heavyweight division, rather than elevating Tom Aspinall. In a way, I've just been filling the role of the company's top guy without lifting a finger, he implied. They can't force me to fight, and honestly, it's been a profitable arrangement. I've probably earned more from Tom holding the interim title than he has himself. It's unfortunate that the rest of the division has to wait, but that's out of my control, Jones stated. I don't make the decisions, and at this stage of my career, you don't strip a fighter like me. I'll step away on my own terms. Veni, Vidi, Vici. Jones hasn't returned to the octagon since his dominant performance over Stipe Miocic at UFC 309 in Madison Square Garden last November. And that wraps it up for now. For the latest updates, stories, and highlights from the world of combat sports, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a drop. Thanks for watching. See you next time.